In a world where machines are becoming smarter and more advanced than ever before, we are here to explore the cutting edge of artificial intelligence. Meet our host, Eric Anthony Jones, aka Ruler in Peace, as he dives into the world of AI, its benefits and its potential dangers. He, along with his future hosts and co-hosts, will be speaking to the people who are at the forefront of AI development and its early implementation stages. We'll show you how AI can revolutionize industries and transform our daily lives, and will confront the fears surrounding AI in order to take you beyond the fear of a world existing only of cold logic. By the time this journey is over, we will discover the power of AI and delve into the creative uses of AI, sparked out of the creative ingenuity unleashed within the depths of the human mind. Join us on this action-packed journey into the world of artificial intelligence, and don't forget to hit the like and subscribe button so you do not miss a single episode. Welcome to Machine Minds, the show where we explore the latest in artificial intelligence and its impact on the world. I'm your host, Eric Anthony Jones, aka Ruler in Peace, and today I'm joined by Jeff Tan, founder and coach of Very Helpful Solutions. Jeff helps individuals and businesses get unstuck using simple steps done one at a time. Jeff, thank you so much for joining us today. To start off, can you please introduce yourself and tell us a bit about your background in AI?
Thank you for having me, Eric, and it's a pleasure being here. I need to set the record straight immediately that I do not have a background in AI because the way you make it sound is as if I can code and I know how AI works. But actually, my interest in AI is as a practitioner, a user of AI. So I have no idea how AI came about, neither am I interested. But one fateful day, sometime in December last year, there was a lot of hype a few weeks after ChatGPT was launched. And everywhere I looked, I would find somebody writing about ChatGPT and how the world's coming to an end. They're talking about Arnold Schwarzenegger and Terminator coming through, rise of the machines and all that. Yeah. So out of sheer curiosity, I went to take a look. And that was the original version which was released. And it just blew my mind. I'm a writer. I'm a marketer. And what I asked ChatGPT to do was to write me a hero statement for a website, the headline, the heading. Uh-huh. And I just gave it very simple parameters for a fake website. And I was stunned that some of them were almost 50% as good as what I could do. But the fact is, I wasn't happy with it. I kept saying, please do it again. And I started to add more and more finesse to my prompting. And finally, I would say 1 out of every 10 of these headlines, 1 out of 10, so 10%, was something that I could use if I wanted to. But I was just designing fake websites just to test it. And I got very excited. So I went deeper and deeper and deeper, and so did the rest of the world. And 2 months ago, I started paying for version 4. And it is as advertised. Yeah, a game changer, especially for me in what I do. Because I'm a content creator, I'm a writer, I'm a digital marketer. It hasn't replaced anything I do. And many times I can write faster because I just write it once or twice and that's it for me. ChatGPT, I need to keep going and going and going. But what I love is that it stirs my imagination. It points me in directions that I might not have thought about. And it gives me combinations of words and sentences that often make a lot of sense. So I'm a user, and I love it. And because of this supremely positive experience with ChatGPT, I started to go into generative AI for art, for logo design, for pictures. So instead of looking for stock photos to put on a website, I started getting Midjourney to do it for me.
Mm-hmm.
And I experimented with Midjourney, Stable Diffusion, and DAL-E. And Midjourney, just like ChatGPT, blew my mind. And just 10 days ago, I paid for the subscription version. So now I've got the latest version, version 5.
Mm-hmm.
And my client just jokingly said, "Can you get me a picture of this?" And he described it, literally without exaggeration. 5 minutes later, I showed him something I got from Midjourney, and he fell off his chair because he said that what I'm showing him is exactly what he was thinking in his mind, but he's not an artist, he's an
Yeah.
engineer. And I drew him, well, I didn't draw him. Midjourney drew him a concept car, a concept electric vehicle in a certain
Mm-hmm.
shape you're looking for. Yeah. And it was amazing, you know. But of course, writing these prompts is a tricky bit for any of these AI AI programs. So that's
Okay.
me and my journey into AI.
Fascinating, Jeff. Absolutely fascinating. I know what you mean. I've experienced playing around with these different AI tools myself and just being blown away by just what they can do. I agree they don't completely, you know, they don't obviously they don't just spit out everything that we're looking for at the right time, but with some coaching, some prompting, it's just amazing what they can do and how they are coming about. So I understand that you're not a coder, and that's not what why I was intending to imply, but just the fact that you are an early adopter is like of implementing is like what's being done and taking advantage of the tools that are being released and more than that, just not relying on ChatGPT, but several other AI resources out there, like the one that you just mentioned. So, like I said, fascinating.
Yep, yep.
Go ahead.
Talking about that, um, I've been using AI assisted programs for quite a while now. It's not
Mm-hmm.
generative, but these platforms have AI in the background, so they develop their own AI. Uh, and I'm very happy to tell everybody who needs to write, who wants to write, go to Grammarly.com. That is not
Mm-hmm.
generative AI, but it's AI assisted, and it saved my life so many times. It finds typos, repeated words, which we cannot check when we look at our own work. Little things here and there, and sometimes it would suggest a different way of writing a paragraph or a sentence, and I'm also blown away. So there are tools like that which have been around for quite a while, and I've been using Grammarly now for 4 years. Paid
Mm-hmm.
version, of course. Never get the free ones. The free ones are only so good, and the paid ones are great. And I used several others um, as well at the same time. Yeah, and I'm always testing, and I found so many duds out there.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the fear that there are more duds than there are gems using OpenSea's resources. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Gotcha. Are there any other resources besides Grammarly in that category that you would like to share with the audience?
Oh, plenty. For the marketers out there who need to produce videos, for example, for Facebook, Instagram, or even YouTube, you start a YouTube channel, and you're thinking, oh, such a pain. But hey, now there's ChatGPT. ChatGPT can write a script. It can, as long as you know what you are doing. Otherwise, your script will look like every other video script, and no one can tell the difference. So, assuming that you can create a script from ChatGPT that matches your brand, your message, and your values, you can use an AI assisted tool like InVideo. It is not generative AI, but it's a tool, InVideo. And I think the other one is called Tube Video. I haven't tried it, so I'm not quite sure. There are other
Mm-hmm.
things like morning fame. I also have the paid subscription, and it will check whether your title is useful, whether someone's going to look at you, look at one of the, I forget how many million videos are uploaded every day. Because this one will tell you how to write so that someone searching will find you on YouTube. And this is especially good for people just starting out on social media or YouTube. So these kind of AI assisted tools are a lifesaver, time
Mm-hmm.
saver actually. Yeah. But before you can use these tools properly, we, the users, we have to know our value proposition and our brand. Otherwise, you look, as I said before, you look like everybody else. Yeah. The
When
look and
you
feels the same, the message is the same.
Jeff, when you talk about value proposition, can for those listeners who may not be familiar with that term, could you explain it to them in a way that they can really understand what you mean by what you're articulating when you talk about their brand and when you talk about their value proposition? Because I know that you have a lot of knowledge in this area.
So when we use generative AI, Chat GPT, Midjourney, if you're not careful, not if you're not careful, if you don't care, you really sound like everybody else. So the only way for you to stand out today is for your product, which is your basically an information product, YouTube, Instagram, and all that. It has to carry a value for a target audience of your choice. So you cannot say, I'm going to produce something and I want to affect everybody on the East Coast of the USA and hopefully into the Midwest as well. But the East Coast, like New York, Kansas, Iowa, they're all Americans, but they carry different values. Nothing right or wrong, it's just different. So
Mm-hmm.
your value proposition for someone who stays in downtown Manhattan, what is important to them is very different from a potato farmer in Idaho. Very different. So your message, if your value proposition is too wide, that means your brand message is too wide. Chat GPT ain't gonna save you. It also ain't gonna help you. Yeah, so that's what I
Mm-hmm.
mean. So it's either your company brand or your personal brand if you're an individual attempting to make it on social media. So you have to know how your brand helps other people. And that is a line that I actually put in my prompt for ChatGPT when I want something specific. I put how I help other people. And I also say who I am. So, for example, I'll tell ChatGPT, I'm the founder of a startup that sells sustainably produced soap.
Mm-hmm.
And I want to reach out to like-minded individuals who already know about sustainable soap and why it's important to the world. And these people live in this part of the world. So that's very specific. And you put your brand message, and then you put there, I want this message to feel ABC, which is your brand. So
Mm-hmm.
to really use these generative AI tools and take advantage of its incredible power, we have to do our homework on ourselves. And we input that with every prompt. And that's how you get amazing results.
That is a gem. I hope everyone was really listening to that because I know that that is things that most people don't really focus on because in this microwave society or microwave world of instant gratification, ChatGPT initially seems to offer immediate gratification to solving a problem, immediate gratification for marketing, immediate gratification for getting something out there. And but I'm glad that you're pointing out that what AI doesn't do is it doesn't take away the internal work that we all each have to do. And we still have to reach down deep if we want to be distinguished and stand out in the crowd. And so it's just not an instant fix to anything, but it is an incredible tool. So I think that the information that you just provided was absolutely fascinating and important. Um, and it is clear that you have really put some time and energy really thinking about these things. So, what do you see as the future of AI in your industry? It's like, from your perspective, what do you see as the future of AI in your particular industry?
I cover several industries. Like I said, I'm a writer, a digital marketer, and I'm a traditional old-fashioned coach.
Mm-hmm.
So marketing part is quite clear. The power of generative AI, like ChatGPT. I don't have to talk about that. What is fascinating me now is that some people have already used. Do you know with OpenAI you can subscribe as a company or an individual, and you buy time. It costs you a small fortune, but you can do that. And ChatGPT actually writes the code for you to stick in your website. So what is really fascinating now is one-on-one coaching using generative AI. So that although it's not going to happen so quickly, it's like we're giving life to AI, and it can become a sentient being. All those crazy horror stories with science fiction movies, aka horror stories from maybe 20 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
So is it going to happen? I don't know, but I find it very interesting because I saw some of the responses. Someone was just showing off. Yeah, um, he was trying to sell me his coaching AI platform, and I thought it was really cool that he developed his own branded coaching platform, and that coaching platform, which is probably based on OpenAI, has got a range of specialties. So he's not just a life coach; he's also a business coach. He's also a design coach, a creative coach, a writing coach. So, wow! And I saw some of the comments that happy trialists were giving him for his
Mm-hmm.
website. And I'm just not sure whether some of the coaching responses really get down to the root of the matter.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, it does help the person who has the problem or the challenge get past the superficial issue at hand. Like, I'm angry with my boss today. He drives me mad. So the response from the AI will be, take a deep breath, blah blah blah. Meditate before you come in, visualize positive things. He's having a bad day. Everyone's all those nice affirmations. He tells you to do
Yeah.
that, but it doesn't go because it doesn't have that power yet to delve like a human coach would, several layers deep to find the root of the matter.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I did so. So I don't know how far these trialists went with their coaching session because they only showed snippets. So it's very exciting, you get an AI model telling you, forgive your boss. He knows not what he does, that kind of thing,
Yeah.
which
Yeah.
uh, is a bit trivial actually. But at least it,
Um,
it got there. Yeah. And for some people who don't have deep rooted issues, that's fine. They just need a boost to get through that moment. But if you've got something deeper, uh, I don't think generative AI is quite ready yet. And at the speed in which I've seen ChatGPT improve from mid-December when I went in to when I bought my subscription 2 months ago, it is crazy. It is so good. So maybe this kind of coaching AI program will mature within a year or two.
mm-hmm.
It's just like Mid Journey has gone from producing art that looks terrible, and now I find it amazing what it can do. Yeah, so
So go ahead.
it can move very quickly and very very far into what we want it to be,
So do you think
and
that
it's good.
do you believe that maybe going through the speed of quantum physics and quantum development that maybe 3 to 5 years from now people will be sitting down with their AI therapist is like to consult for those deeper level issues? Do you think that that's a, a direction we could find ourselves in eventually?
Let me rephrase that question for you, Eric. The question is, are we going to sit down with our AI shrink within the next 12 months or the next 36 months? It's not a question of if, it's a question of how quickly this happens, because it will happen. And just like human coaches, psychologists, and psychiatrists, we make mistakes. Yeah.
Yes.
And mistakes will happen with AI as well. But it will happen. So it's just in my opinion, matter of how quickly it happens and whether governments stop it.
Correct. I mean, I was thinking the same thing actually, because I already know that there are people who are actually, even in its current forms, even with Chat GPT, going and asking questions, is like asking questions that they don't know the answers to about life, about so many different issues, because people want to hear what the response is going to be, and they're actually hoping for a solution. So I do know that, and I sometimes have to caution people because I was talking to a person who was using ChatGPT, and they stated that they don't use Google anymore; they just use ChatGPT to get information. And I caution them on just only relying on ChatGPT for the very reasons that you just mentioned. AI still does make mistakes; it's not fallacy proof, and it's a growing model.
I agree. And here's another issue with people who use ChatGPT and not the other programs like Midjourney or Stable Diffusion.
Mm-hmm.
It is surprising that a lot of people don't know you can create an extension on ChatGPT so that if you type in what's the best place to have dinner in lower midtown Manhattan, let's say that's your question, right? If you
Mm-hmm.
Google it, you're going to have endless pages. If you go to ChatGPT, without using the Google extension on ChatGPT, if you just go to ChatGPT, it will say, I'm sorry, I'm just a language model and I'm only good to end of 2021. But
One
here's what,
exactly.
and they'll give you all reviews. But if you stick a Google extension into your ChatGPT, you will get, I don't know how Google does this and which one goes in, but you can get 3 responses from Google into ChatGPT, and it will tell you this is from Google because you've connected uh, Google into ChatGPT. So you can get the most current, but you know, these are things that you have to be very careful also, because I'm not quite sure whether these are the paid ads in Google that come in or, or the most searched ones. I'm not sure. So anyway, I stopped doing that. It was a bit of a pain for me. So I
Gotcha.
don't use the Google extension on ChatGPT. But there are other little shortcuts like that. There are so many, and a lot of people seem so happy with version 3.5. They're not even going to subscribe to version 4. They're happy with 3.5. And they are not aware that there are other things you can do on
Mm-hmm.
OpenAI's ChatGPT. Yeah. I must be very clear because there's literally thousands of wannabe and lookalikes like ChatGPT. ChatGPT is a product of OpenAI, and now there are other products by other people, and they're paying OpenAI for the resources. So be
Mm-hmm.
careful, but be aware at the same time. Uh,
That's actually a very good segue to my next question, actually. And so, what are your thoughts on the safety and ethical concerns? I want to talk about the potential risks of AI, and what are your thoughts on the safety and the ethical concerns surrounding AI? I know that's very broad. I mean, but I want you to take wherever your brain leads you, wherever that question leads you. I want you to just open up and let it flow.
you see, the ethical part comes from when you go to an art generator, Midjourney, Stable Diffusion, and all that, and you actually say, produce me a mountain scene with 2 people in the background these of what ethnicity, what gender, and all that. You describe in a boat, on a lake, blah 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 blah, and then you put that in the style of Cubism by Picasso. I say this because that's what I played around with in the beginning. And wow, what came out was really Cubism by Picasso, and it looked awful. It really looked awful. So I changed the artist, Matisse, because I wanted more of these abstract arts. Because if I said Rembrandt, it will come up pretty accurate. So that's where the ethics comes in, because you are knowingly copying. Yeah, you're knowingly copying, and the challenge is for not for these famous artists like Picasso and Rembrandt and Matisse, but the ethics issues comes from the up and coming ones, who some of them are already there. And if our good friend Tegu, if you told Mid Journey, and if he has enough stuff online, they will produce something in his style. Yeah.
Okay.
And so he's still alive and he's still making a good living, granted, from his art, but his art is literally unique, one of a kind. And if you do that, you are copying. Yeah. So you're not respecting someone's intellectual property. So ethics or integrity. Yeah. Because if I wanted to copy, I could pay somebody. I mean, there's so many art forgers in the world that even the art experts cannot tell the difference. Museum curators cannot tell the difference. So ethics and integrity, how do you reconcile that? So that is the issue. Safety, that is something that, oh no, I forgot his name. Sam, what's his name? The founder of, the owner, the CEO of ChatGPT, of OpenAI, Sam something. Okay, never mind. We'll come back after we hang up. He said that is something that they are concerned about. There was a great interview by an Australian channel with him, and he's putting in roadblocks, but we don't know what these roadblocks are. We don't know what these steps are. We really don't. And he's an American, where freedom of speech is a right. So he's building a product with an American mindset. So other countries which don't share that kind of freedom of speech views, these countries are not wrong. Singapore, where I'm from, is one of them. China, which is a capitalist country, by the way. Let me say this again. I live in China for 14 years, and most of my business today still comes from there, even though I'm back in Singapore. China is a capitalist country, not a communist country. It is communist, but with a capitalist mindset. They don't like people talking bad about the government. So there comes the safety part. How do you draw the line? Where do you draw the line? So if you want to make a bomb, I haven't tested that yet. How do I make a bomb with a blast radius of 200 feet, and no one can find out that I'm the bomb maker? I don't think ChatGPT can do that, but Google can. So YouTube can. So I'm not quite sure where this, suddenly there's so much talk about safety and ethics with OpenAI, when you can get the same thing. It might take you longer to find what you're looking for, but you will get there quickly. Yeah. So how
That's
do we
true.
answer? How do we get it safe? I don't know.
And that's a really good point, because like you said, there are tons of information out there. There's like tons of documentation put together by all kinds of, including the regular US military, other countries' militaries, with their manuals that they use for their own soldiers, that find their way into libraries, that find their way into Google, that find their way onto is like other sites that just have this stuff listed. And when you have AI, whether it be the AI from a Google search engine that's working in the background, is like, or then an actual AI engine that's more specifically directly searching out what you're looking for with even greater speeds from other AI creations, because remember what's out there now is just, it's still just the tip of the iceberg of what's to come. Just like you were talking about all the garbage that's out there and all the goodness out there, even the good things will someday seem, how you were talking about the evolution of ChatGPT from one version to version 4 right now. So even from 3.5 to 4, it's always going to be continuing to evolve. And we always, I always think of um, the Terminator in that standpoint of where AI is everywhere and into everything, and begins to try to think on its own, so to speak, like you're talking about, almost becoming sentinel is like, and regulatory even. But I've thought about it from a standpoint also of just that, not just what AI does because of human programming, but what about governments that have ulterior motives, or any person that has ulterior motives, and where all this can go. I mean, the rabbit hole goes really deep very quickly.
I'm not sure if the rabbit hole goes deep, very quickly. I feel that you now have another rabbit hole. Yeah, that's all. And this rabbit hole gets you to the bottom a little bit quicker than Google
Mhm.
and YouTube. But the amount of bad things on Google and YouTube is not funny. Yeah,
Yes,
it's all there. Yeah, so uh, there's different kinds of ethical issues and safety issues that people are afraid of. Just to give an example, I'm from the generation that was in school before calculators were cheap enough for every kid to have. But I
okay.
was in high school when we used calculators in school to do our homework and all that kind of stuff. But in exams, we use this awful thing called a log table. You flip a book, and if you want to multiply 20 digits by 17 digits, you have to do this and that. And a lot of times we got the answer wrong because we misread the columns and the rows, and we picked
Uh-huh.
the one before. And for the longest of time, all over the world, handheld calculators were banned from schools. Today, we wouldn't even think about it. Yeah. Uh, you know that I used to fly in the military in Singapore.
Mm-hmm.
When GPS, Garmin came out of this clunker, we brought it on board our chopper, we flew with it, and people were saying, hey, we do it. This is not how we do it. We use a map with a ruler and a pencil. So we used to literally carry maps and rulers and pencils and weird looking measuring devices. And you're flying a chopper, everything's shaking. It's really hard to get a straight line in.
Uh-huh.
We carry a map now in case everything breaks down on a flight, but we use GPS. So again, a lot of the fears of chat GPT and generative AI is very similar to calculators, to GPS, to home computers. Yeah.
Absolutely.
So embrace and enjoy.
I I share with you that sentiment completely. I mean, the bottom line is, this is the from my perspective, just the evolution of human society. We're always exploring, we're always having new things to be able to rejoice about and things to be cautious about. And hopefully, it's like I still trust in some element or aspect of humanity to be able to chart its way through, is like all the new experiences and surprises, and find something good at the end. And so, I mean, maybe I'm an internal optimist, is like, but I still believe that. So I think that this is really an intriguing and exciting and evolving, continually evolving area of life that we have found ourselves moving into. But like you've pointed out a few times, and like I know for a fact, that whether you call it AI, some form of intelligence, some form of computer generated data has been with us, excuse me, for decades and decades. It's just always been evolving and evolving and evolving. And I can't remember what the specific term is for how you know computer every so many years is like the time for doing something gets shortened and shortened and shortened and shortened and shortened, and it's
Moore's
still
law.
exact. So I don't know. We're just in an interesting space in life, and I'm happy to be a part of it. I'm happy to be learning about it, and just trying to wrap my head around it and helping people wrap their head around it and find out ways to be able to take advantage of this to better their lives, to better humanity, to better communities, because you can use all of this data and knowledge is like to come up with solutions, is like with the ingenuity of the human mind and the heart, is like with tools that may have access to data that I might not personally have known, but by having access to tools, be able to tap into and take something that's part of me and something that AI already knew is like as part of its data set, is like to come up with a solution that maybe no one's ever thought of before. So that's how I kind of look at things. And having said that, that's a good segue into is like before we wrap up, could you share with us a specific project or accomplishment related to AI that you're most proud of to this point at this point in time?
Well, that's a tough one because okay, let me share it anyway. Just before Christmas,
Mm-hmm.
I was with our dear friend BK Han, and we're talking about ChatGPT. We both of us had already gone in, and then I forget how this conversation came about, but I went home and I decided to write my novel, and I wanted ChatGPT to write the novel for me. So I gave it the background, what I wanted some dystopian future where I'm the only survivor, those kind of stupid things. And
Mm-hmm.
it came out with chapter one. Yeah, it came out with chapter one, which was about 300 to 400 words. And I was stunned. I was so amazed at how, with just 4 lines of the prompt, it came out with this whole chapter. And I loved it. I sent that chapter one to everyone I knew. It was late, so I went to bed. Next morning, I woke up and read my masterpiece, and I wanted to cry because I sent it to people who knew me. Because when I read it again without the excitement and adrenaline, it was perhaps Jeff at the age of 14 or 15. That was how how good it was. It was cliche ridden. It was full of okay, it was full of cliches. Every line had multiple cliches, multiple adjectives before a word. And I was shocked that I didn't spot this the night before.
Uh-huh.
And I was disappointed. But what ChatGPT did was to inspire me to write the old fashioned way. And within 2 weeks, I pounded my keyboard and I actually wrote a 7,000 plus word short story.
Uh-huh.
And I did it without ChatGPT's help at all. But it inspired me so much that, it gave me this energy to keep going. And I sent
Yeah.
this manuscript to a professional editor, paid her good money. And she has no AI to help her edit. But her comments blew me away. And I was thinking, ChatGPT cannot have given me this feedback like she did. Because for starters, ChatGPT would not accept 7,000 words in the prompt. I had to split it into two. And when you split into two, it loses a lot of essence. And it made me think that this woman, my editor, has a job for life because
Yes.
ChatGPT cannot do this yet. And when it can, I'm sure she will be one step ahead again. So that is my great success story with AI. It inspired me so much that I wrote a short story, which is a fiction short story, something that just doesn't gel with me. So I got into it, and it has become a personal project because my life. By the way, this book is going to tell my kids what I cannot tell them about my life and how I feel about them and my own life. So I put it in a fiction book. They have to decipher it at the end. But so now, ChatGPT inspired me to write my life story
Hmm.
in this as a fiction book. And without ChatGPT, I would never have started. So I'm very grateful to this
Well,
to
I can really
ChatGPT for doing this.
exactly, and I really think that you're on to. I talk about the importance of the human mind, the human heart. Is like I don't think. I mean, I've seen all kinds of AI type movies, robot type movies growing up. Johnny Five is alive. I don't
Yep,
know.
yep.
And so no, Johnny Five is alive. I don't want to be terminated. Is like, um, and some of those movies are really cute. And then of course we have the sinister side of the other side with the Terminators wanting to exterminate all of humanity, etc. But what is beautiful about, from my perspective, what is beautiful about humanity is once again it still comes down to that heart, that mind, that soul, that spirit. And I don't know whether AI will ever get to the point of having, perceiving that it is alive, so to speak, perceiving that it is, sentinel is like and not just machine. But I do know that if you watch movies like The Matrix, we get very close to that kind of vocabulary in the movies. But regardless of whether they become peers and friends, and I mean, people already consider Siri a friend, and we know what Siri is like on Apple. Um, but I do hear people talking to Siri like, Siri is their best friend. And as human beings, always looking and searching for companionship, connection is like, that is a human need. And and I can see people using AI to try to get that need met if it's not being met in their regular lives. So there are just so many unknowns and how we're going to relate in maybe a healthy or dysfunctional way. I don't know for sure. Probably all the above, just like we do in everything else, in my opinion. Would you concur with that as well?
Oh, for sure. And when you were talking, it suddenly made me remember a science fiction movie by what's the guy's name? The Transformers guy, Shia LaBeouf.
Uh huh.
It's called Eagle Eye, where he had a twin brother who was
Mm-hmm.
working in the U.S. Intelligence or whatever,
Oh
and
yeah.
it was became a sentient being, and it was telling him to do things. It was controlling all these kind of things. So it suddenly made me remember that. So will it happen? Maybe. Why not?
Why not? And somehow or another, I have to believe that we will evolve, adapt, and figure out how to continue to progress. And so, once again, I'm still of the mindset that this is nothing to be afraid of, but it's something to put our hearts, our mind, and our souls into. So, I would like to know before we go ahead and close down this episode one of Machine Minds, if there's just anything else you'd like to share with the audience, anything you would like to share about AI, um, just anything at all, any closing thoughts, any closing remarks.
Yeah, there's one, because this has been my experience working with my friends who are ChatGPT users now, and the question always ends up is, how do we know that whatever ChatGPT or even Midjourney or Stable Diffusion does for us, how do we know it's good? Not whether it's ethical or whether it copied somebody, but how do we know it's good and good enough for the intention that brought us into generative AI? And that brings me back to my editor. She responded I mean, she read 7,000 words literally in an hour, and her responses were amazing because she obviously read it deeply. Yeah. So
Mm-hmm.
she knows. Because I had no idea. I thought it was, I thought it was pretty good, my short story, but turns out it was pretty bad. So my point is that for all of us using any generative AI, how do we know our work matches our intention, and how do we know our work is good enough? Yeah, so that is the
Mm-hmm.
question. And the answer is go seek the help of an expert, a human. For now, later, you can use AI as the expert. I'm sure there'll be a different program that will just talk about these things, editing services, for example.
But in the end, Jeff, won't it all end up still just being subjective? Is like versus objective, because it's still going to be a subjective
Oh,
call.
don't get me started on subjectivity and objectivity. If you give me two glasses of wine, I have such I have such an acute palate that I can tell you instantly this is red and this is white, and that's about it. And the
Uh,
only reason why I know that is because one of the wines is chilled, the other one's at room temperature. So you can give me $1,000 or $5,000 glass of wine, and I don't know. Yeah, as long as it doesn't taste like vinegar, I don't know.
uh,
So it is not so subjective. That yes, it is subjective, but within that realm of whatever you're doing, there are experts, and there are things which deem this better or worse. Yeah. So
mm-hmm.
even Picasso, you look at some of Picasso's works, everything is got its nose flat, fractionalized. But the art experts will say, this piece, not his best. That's why when I look at it, it's like, oh, they all look the same to me. Although I love Picasso, they all look the same to me. So there are standards. If you ask a Chinese person from mainland China, is this Chinese tea better than that one? Some of them know. An English person or an Indian person will know. This Darjeeling tea is better than that one. Blind taste test. So
Uh-huh.
objectivity, subjectivity, yes. But ChatGPT is somewhere and nowhere at the same time in terms of quality. So uh, you need a domain expert to help you. Yeah, and then you learn to appreciate that this Picasso is crap. That one is good, not because I say so, but because of other things. Yeah.
No, I hear where you're coming from, and once again, it is it's a thread for me. It's a thread, and so subjectivity, objectivity, expert, novice, complete done work is like, no, this is still something that needs to be added to. As a composer and producer of music, I always have to get to that point of where I decide that I'm done, I'm finished, this is good enough. As an author, you're done, you're satisfied, you think it's great, and you have to get to the point where you just decide that I don't care what the rest of the world thinks. For me, this is my masterpiece, and I am complete. And so that's a good way of ending this segment. Is like this first episode of Machine Minds. Is like that's about all the time that we have for today, anyway. So Jeff, I want to thank you for joining us on Machine Minds, and thank you to our audience for tuning in, and to join us next time as we continue to explore the fascinating world of artificial intelligence, or AI. Dun, dun, dun. Thank you very much, Jeff, for joining us.
My pleasure. Take care, Eric.
You too now.